I am young Homer, here to guide you further into the rise and fall of Zeus. Tonight, we continue Series 9, Weaknesses, Pitfalls, and the Slow Decline of Zeus, with Episode 76, The Rise of Mortal Faiths, Gods Forgotten. In this tale, we witness a world slowly shifting away from Olympus. As mortal societies grow, their beliefs evolve, new faiths emerging with each generation. Zeus, once revered without question, feels the power of worship slip from his grasp, replaced by mortal devotion to other ideals, other gods, and unseen forces. The halls of Olympus grow quieter as the belief that once fueled the god's strength begins to wane. This is the story of fading influence, as even gods must face the inevitability of change. As we step into this tale of shifting power and quiet solitude, allow yourself to settle deeply into the warmth of your bed, feeling safe, supported, and fully at rest. Close your eyes if you wish and take a slow, deep breath in, letting calm spread through your chest, as steady as the quiet passage of time. As you exhale, release any remaining tension, allowing your body to grow heavy, sinking into stillness and ease. This is your time to let go, to rest, and to find peace. Now focus on the gentle rhythm of your breath. Each inhale and exhale is timeless as the mountains that stand silently beneath changing skies. Take a slightly deeper breath in, letting it fill you completely, and hold it softly for a moment. Then, as you exhale, imagine any tightness melting away, leaving only warmth and tranquility. One more time, breathe in deeply, and as you exhale, feel yourself sinking further, calm and grounded. Now, let's guide each part of the body to soften, inviting rest with every breath. Start with your forehead, allowing it to relax completely as you exhale. Move to your jaw, releasing any tightness, letting it rest softly. Now, bring awareness to your shoulders. Inhale deeply, then let them fall, as though they are light as clouds drifting in an open sky. Allow your arms and hands to grow heavy, resting peacefully by your sides. Notice the gentle rise and fall in your chest and belly, inhaling as your belly rises, and on the exhale, releasing any last bits of tension, feeling light and free. Shift your focus to your hips and thighs, letting them sink deeper into the bed, fully supported and relaxed. And finally, bring attention to your calves, feet, and toes, allowing them to release completely, grounded and serene. Now, imagine yourself standing upon the quiet, golden heights of Olympus, where sunlight drapes softly over silent halls and empty paths. In the distance, you see Zeus standing alone, gazing out across a world that no longer prays to him, his power fading like whispers lost in the wind. There is a stillness here, a reminder that even the gods must accept the ebb and flow of time, each new generation carrying forward a world shaped yet not bound by the past. With each breath, feel yourself surrounded by the calm acceptance of this moment, as though you, too, stand witness to the quiet beauty of change. Inhale deeply, letting the peace and timelessness of the scene fill you, and exhale, feeling grounded, steady, and fully at ease. With your body relaxed and your mind open, allow the story to carry you into this world of change, resilience, and quiet endings, where all things find their place within the turning wheel of time. Take one last deep breath in and let it out softly. Now, let us begin. For generations, Zeus and the gods of Olympus reigned supreme in the hearts and minds of mortals. They were the arbiters of fate, the givers of life and death, the forces that dictated the rise and fall of empires. Mortals prayed, sacrificed, and built temples in their honor, believing that their destinies were woven by the hands of gods. But as time passed, something shifted. Mortals, who once depended on divine intervention, began to question the authority of Olympus. It began subtly, with whispers among philosophers and thinkers who pondered the mysteries of life without invoking the gods. In cities and villages alike, people began to ask questions. Why did the gods bring misfortune as often as blessings? Why did they remain distant, their judgments harsh and unpredictable? What purpose did worship serve when so often the divine will was unfathomable? For the first time, mortals looked within themselves, seeking answers in human experience and reasoning rather than the will of Zeus and his kin. This shift unsettled Zeus, who felt the beginnings of an existential threat to Olympus. The prayers that once filled the air with reverence grew quieter, replaced by mortal curiosity and exploration. And while the gods still held sway over the natural world, their control over mortal minds began to fade as humanity drifted toward self-reliance and new beliefs. Zeus, for all his power, could not ignore the signs of change as mortals slowly turned away from the gods they once feared and revered. Across the Greek world, philosophers began to rise, seeking answers not from the heavens, but from within. Figures like Pythagoras and Anaxagoras questioned the nature of existence, searching for knowledge through observation, reason, and the pursuit of wisdom. T. Hay taught that the universe followed principles and patterns governed by logic rather than the whims of the gods. The mysteries of life, they argued, could be explained by studying the world itself, not by appeasing distant deities. These teachings spread quickly, inspiring mortals to question long-held beliefs. the gods were no longer seen as the sole gatekeepers of knowledge and truth. In Athens, temples stood beside lecture halls, yet the latter often attracted more attention, filled with eager minds seeking knowledge through debate and contemplation. To these thinkers, the gods became symbolic figures, representations of natural forces, rather than beings of absolute authority. Zeus watched with frustration as mortal thinkers expanded their reach, inspiring new generations to look inward rather than upward. They turned their prayers into questions, their offerings into reflections. This was a defiance unlike any Zeus had faced before. It was not rebellion by force or anger, but a quiet, pervasive shift in perspective, a silent protest against the dependence on divine will. The rise of philosophy signaled a turning point, a new path that led mortals away from Olympus, weakening the gods' influence over their lives. But it wasn't only philosophy that shifted mortal devotion away from Olympus. New faiths and religions began to emerge, introducing ideas of personal virtue, redemption, and inner peace. These faiths promised mortals a different relationship with the divine, one that emphasized individual choice and moral responsibility over blind reverence. In some cities, cults and new spiritual movements began to gather followers, drawing people away from the temples of Olympus. In these new practices, mortals found a sense of agency. No longer were they at the mercy of gods who demanded obedience and sacrifice. They were free to explore a relationship with the divine that resonated with their personal values and struggles. Stories of forgiveness, compassion, and redemption took root in mortal hearts, challenging the old tales of vengeance, punishment, and divine rivalry. Mortals no longer feared the gods as they once had, for they had found new ways to understand life, death, and destiny. Zeus could feel the shift in devotion, sensing that mortal hearts no longer belonged solely to Olympus. He saw his temples emptying, his altars neglected. Where once he had commanded loyalty through fear and power, mortals now sought hope, redemption, and understanding in new beliefs. His power, built on reverence and respect, was eroding with each prayer offered to a different vision of the divine. For Zeus, this was an unprecedented threat, not from war or rebellion, but from the quiet yet firm refusal of mortals to rely on Olympus. The gods of Olympus felt the consequences of this shift just as strongly as Zeus. With fewer prayers and offerings, their influence over the mortal world weakened, their power dimming in ways that were subtle but undeniable. Apollo, the god of prophecy and healing, felt his reach limited as mortals turned to new healers and philosophies. Even Hera, whose influence over marriage and family had once been revered, felt mortals questioning traditional roles, choosing new ideals over ancient customs. The younger gods, like Hermes and Dionysus, saw the change as inevitable. accepting that mortals would continue to evolve and adapt. But the older gods, those whose power had been established through fear and reverence, struggled with the loss. Hera, in particular, resented the shift, seeing it as a betrayal by the mortals she had guided for centuries. Poseidon, lord of the seas, found his own domains affected as mortals explored new lands without calling upon him for favor or protection. Some gods grew bitter, seeing mortal independence as a rebellion. Others, like Athena, watched with quiet acceptance, recognizing that the age of unquestioned divine authority was ending. Zeus, however, could not accept this. To him, the weakening devotion of mortals was a direct challenge to his authority, a sign that his control was slipping and Olympus itself was growing vulnerable. In the halls of Olympus, the gods murmured with unease, each one feeling the weight of their dwindling influence. Determined to reclaim mortal loyalty, Zeus took drastic measures to reassert his dominance. He sent storms to cities that no longer prayed, striking down buildings, disrupting markets, and filling the skies with thunder and lightning. He intervened in mortal affairs more visibly, punishing those who questioned his rule, demonstrating the wrath of Olympus in acts that shook the earth and skies. His message was clear. The gods were not to be ignored. But these acts of vengeance only fueled mortal resentment. They saw Zeus not as a protector, but as a tyrant, a god who demanded worship not out of love, but out of fear. Mortals began to distance themselves further, resisting divine interference and seeking strength within their communities. Philosophers used these acts as proof of the gods' limitations, arguing that divine wrath was a desperate attempt to hold on to a power that was no longer theirs by right. In his desperation to reassert control, Zeus had only hastened the decline of Olympus's influence. Mortals, no longer awed by his displays of power, grew more emboldened. They turned their backs on Olympus, choosing instead to find strength in their own minds and spirits, in their values and new beliefs. Zeus's response, meant to restore order, had instead deepened the divide, turning mortals away from Olympus with greater resolve than ever. In the rare quiet that followed his futile displays of power, Zeus began to feel the weight of Olympus's isolation. The kingdom that had once commanded loyalty across the mortal world now felt distant, its influence slipping beyond reach. He remembered a time when his presence inspired awe, when mortals feared and respected him, looking to Olympus for guidance and protection. Now, however, the world below moved on, shaping its own beliefs, its own destiny. Zeus reflected on the choices that had led to this point, the wars, the punishments, the acts of vengeance that had driven mortals further from Olympus rather than binding them to it. For a fleeting moment, he wondered if there had been a different path, one where mortals could have been guided with compassion rather than control. But the thought was brief, overtaken by his enduring pride. He was, after all, the king of the gods, the architect of divine law, and he could not bring himself to accept that mortals might live beyond his grasp. Yet, he felt a growing emptiness, a realization that the reverence he once commanded was now slipping away, a silent erosion that even his power could not stop. The gods, too, sensed this isolation, each one feeling the slow separation from the mortal realm that had once sustained their purpose. In his isolation, Zeus began to understand the consequences of an age where Olympus would be forgotten, a fate he could not fully accept or escape. The rise of mortal faiths marked the beginning of a new era, a world where gods and mortals walked separate paths, each shaping their own fates. The philosophers, thinkers, and spiritual leaders who guided humanity introduced ideas that freed mortals from the grip of divine authority. Mortals, empowered by their newfound autonomy, grew more resilient, embracing a world governed by their own values rather than the demands of distant gods. Olympus, though still powerful, became more a distant symbol than an active force, its influence waning as humanity moved forward. The gods felt the weight of their diminishing role, sensing that the future belonged not to the divine, but to those who dared to explore life without fear. And as mortals grew stronger in their convictions, Olympus grew quieter, its once vibrant halls filled with the echoes of a fading era. Zeus's efforts to control mortals had backfired, leading to an age where humanity found freedom beyond Olympus's reach. The gods, now onlookers in a world they no longer ruled absolutely, began to understand that their time of unquestioned authority was drawing to an end. The rise of mortal faiths had not only weakened Olympus, but had changed the very fabric of existence, ushering in a world where gods and mortals walked their paths separately. But the decline of Olympus would not pass without further turmoil. Join us in the next episode as we explore Ares' rebellion, a conflict driven by the god of war's own thirst for power and chaos. Discover how Ares' challenge to Zeus's rule would further unravel Olympus, testing the loyalties of gods and mortals alike in a battle that would shake the heavens. Until we meet again, may your path be filled with peace, strength, and a touch of magic. I'm young Homer, and I look forward to our next story together.